Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition of this year's budget, and I would like to urge my colleagues to vote no. While this is my first budget voting as a state assemblyman, this is not my first go around when looking at a budget. As a township administrator, for nearly a decade, I've crafted many budgets, and nothing comes close to the level of dysfunction and secrecy than what I've witnessed here in the state budget. By law, which is passed by this body, municipalities have 10 days to wait after amending their budget in order to hold a vote. This leaves ample time for the elected officials and the public to view and read the entire document. If transparency is a virtue, it is one that is still lost on some of us here in Trenton. Today, as we are being asked to vote for a $50.6 billion spending package, few legislators have had a chance to read it because we've only had 36 hours in access to the document. That's less than 2 days to properly vet a nearly 300-page mammoth document that effectively cuts $20 million in relief to our seniors through the Senior Freeze program, cuts $3.5 million in open space funding, which affects the rural communities in my district, and still fails to fully fund our schools and protect vulnerable programs for our kids. To give you an idea, if we removed all the pork spending, the Christmas tree items in this budget, we could have restored all the funding losses that we have seen in the S2 legislation over the last 5 years. For those of our constituents who might be following along today, this might be an unusual occurrence, but it is not. In fact, by design, by keeping this document from the public until the very last opportunity, there is no chance for residents to get infuriated or even react as billions of dollars are being doled out in the shadows. Every legislative session for years, Assembly Republicans have offered reforms to the process that would give taxpayers stake in this budget and many others that they deserve and which they pay for. My Assembly colleague from the 8th District, Assemblyman Teresi, has offered a bill that would require that this legislature make all bills and resolutions available to the public at least 7 days. Ironically, that bill has never been heard by this estimable body. It's time to bring the public into the equation and pass transparency reform that at least gives everyone a few days to look over legislation that this body passes. Budgets like these can worsen the recession, raise future property taxes, and hurt our residents and their mortgages in the future in more ways than we can count. It's about sustainability. When we look at a municipal budget, it's about sustaining it into the future. We need to give all the residents of New Jersey a stake and representation in crafting the state's budget that since they owe the property taxes that they pay to this government each year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I will be voting no on this budget.